is Tristan Edwards, and I'm a member of the University of Pittsburgh's Pharmacy Business Administration as part of the School of Pharmacy. And here is a little demo of an innovation I introduced to help improve pharmacy workflow and efficiency. Just to give a little brief background, it involves Microsoft Excel Visual Basic Programming, and I implemented it within a clinical call center that makes outbound calls to patients who are not adherent to their medications. So essentially, the clinical call center, they receive data that show patients on Marixa or Socrates or outcomes platforms that aren't renewing their prescriptions on time, they're not picking them up on time. So the clinical call center gets the notification that we ought to give them a call, and the call center then makes calls and receives reimbursement at different rates depending on what type of call is made. For example, a comprehensive medication review makes a lot more than a simple adherence call. So I'll go in and give you a little look at what the call center layout looked like and how I addressed the issue of improving their internal record keeping of their calls and revenue generation. So here is a depiction of what the call center looked like. Each box here, the light blue boxes, represent a cubicle where employees sat and made outbound calls. Now, each hour, the company designated one employee every day to walk around to each cubicle and record how many CMRs, how many adherence calls, how many messages were left, how many no answers occurred for each individual employee. Now, to do this every hour, each hour it took about 8 to 10 minutes for the employee to make it around to all the cubicles and record on a hard copy piece of paper a total tally of every type of call that was made. And now when the employee reached the last cubicle here, he or she would then report to the pharmacy manager over here with all the information summed up, which the pharmacy manager would take and then input on his own into his internal record keeping system. Now, lucky for me, I have a penchant for Microsoft Excel Visual Basic Programming, and the clinical call center uses Microsoft Excel to record the call statuses of their patients. To automate this process and essentially save 8 minutes of an employee's time each hour, I developed some code within Microsoft Excel to speed this process up. Now, instead of going around and manually tallying how many calls were made each hour, I created a call log, as you can see down here that I'm pointing to with my arrow, that tallies up using basic Excel functions, countifs, sums, things like that. The total revenue generated down here based upon the types of calls that are made within each platform of medication therapy management. So for Socrates, all the information would be stored here. Marixa would be stored here. Any miscellaneous information is stored here for a final total of right now 370. Now I'll give you an example of how my code works. The coolest part is the automated email report that's sent to the pharmacy manager at the end of it. But right now, let's go and say, I was working at the call center and I got a hold of Mr. Tupac Shakur over here, and smoking the substances which he did, he was prescribed a long-term and rescue inhaler. But let's say for this call, I reached out to him to talk to him about his rescue inhaler, and he agreed to start using it more and pick it up from the pharmacy. So I would call that a successful call 1, as well as a bonus payment, because I generated a prescription for which Tupac was not adherent to his rescue medication. Now, let's say I also talked to Bonnie Tyler, and it was signaled to us that she wasn't taking her cholesterol medication at a monthly rate, and that she was late on some of her statin medications. So let's say I called her, and I generated her cholesterol medication prescription there as well. Now let's go to our call log here. You see our total revenue is bumped up to 490. Let's say I moved into the Marixa platform within medication therapy management, and let's say I managed to get a hold of Miss Nancy Reagan, and she was due for a CMR here. So let's say I called her and she agreed. She has a lot of medications, and she wants to do a CMR. So I spent a half hour. I did a CMR. Now what does our total bump up to? 550. So there's a live update system that records and tallies each employee's work throughout the day. But the niftiest part here, I'll go into the email portion of it. I designated my email in place of the old pharmacy manager for whom I worked as the recipient of these automated reports. Excuse me, this is caps lock still. So I'll go into my email here, and instead of every hour for this demonstration, I made the email report. I made the code so it would happen every like 45 seconds. I'll go into the editor here and show you what the code kind of looks like. If it'll come up, bear with me. So this is the email code within here. If you ever want to see it, feel free to email me. I can send it over to you. It's really not too difficult. So you can see like every 45 seconds, I'm getting an email to myself with an updated status of what my employees are doing with their time. So right now I'm at 550. Let's say I make another CMR happen. Let's see, I get John Boehner on the phone. Yeah, it's John Boehner. So now my total goes up to 610. So let's wait. I just received another email. It's happening also quickly. So the newest email should update with a dollar amount of $610 based upon what I just did. Let's see, I'm the pharmacy manager here, and I go into my hourly report. Oh, not yet. Still 550. Give it a moment. And there it looks like it just sent. I can actually edit some code in so that it tells me every time a successful email is sent. Oops. And that will tell me every time this code runs. So let's check my email again, see if I got the updated number of $610 where I'm at, because I spoke with Mr. John Boehner. And there it is, updated with $610. So essentially this saves time for the employee running around the office every hour, saves about 8 minutes every hour, about 64 minutes each day. And do the multiplication, how many weeks are in a year. That's a lot of time that can be delegated to generating more revenue and spending time doing more efficient activities. So there it is. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is tfe2@pitt.edu. Thank you for your time.